We're here.
Okay. Hi, it's Rebecca Ibel. We are live with Contemporary Art Matters. I'm sitting here with Melissa Meyer in her studio in Chelsea in New York. And it's September 11th in New York City, the week of galleries and openings, Armory Fair, and a lot of activities. So it's a special treat to make time to be in the studio with Melissa Meyer. And at Contemporary Art Matters in Columbus, we have an exhibition of collages. See the link in our bio for to see those works. And the exhibition is really special to me because it's the first time I've shown her collages, and I have had the pleasure of working with and showing works of Melissa Meyer since 1994, when I showed a series of prints that you made, and we've connected, and it's been loads of fun, and I'm thrilled to be back here today and planning our next projects as well. So I thought we would start off talking about some of the collages and some of your life in New York as a painter. I have loads of questions.
Okay.
You are a New Yorker, don't drive. Right.
I'm starting to regret it, though.
No, I think I started this well. And you went to NYU, got your bachelor and master's degree in fine art.
Right.
And I'm interested to know, what was it like to start off as a painter and an abstract painter in New York in the 1960s? And who were your teachers? How was that part of your journey?
So, let me think. Well, I always tell the story about how I ended up at Yaddo, which the head of the art department at NYU was walking around the studios looking for a painter, because painting was dead.
Painting was dead.
Yes, and a teacher of mine said 6 times in his life they said painting was dead.
Okay.
Anyway, so Howard Conant. So he walked around and then he found me. He said, "You're a painter, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You want to go to Yaddo?" I said, "What's that?" And then he said, "Come into my office." And I just happened to have slides. Remember slides?
Yes.
And my friends always go, "Oh, Melissa, you just happen to have your slides."
Uh-huh.
How convenient. Anyway, and so then he looked at them and he said, Okay, good. All right, now you have to call Helen Frankenthaler. And so I thought, oh my God. And in those days, I could hardly say my name out loud. I was so self-conscious and intimidated and not shy, but self-conscious. So anyway, he said, now you have to call her. I thought, oh my God, okay. So, but I knew it was important. So, and I called her, but she wasn't home.
You mustered all the gumption just to leave a message, or were there answering machines at those times? You just get a ring.
Helen had either a housekeeper or an assistant or both. Okay, and so I left my name and my phone number, and then one day I get a phone call and I say hello, and this woman says, "Hello, this is Helen Frankenthaler." And I thought, interesting. Then you announce who you are, and then you don't say who's calling.
Yes.
And I thought, how did Helen know that? Very sophisticated. Anyway, because I do that now. I copy her.
Okay.
Anyway, so then she said, "Are you a student?" I said, No, I'm not a student. Because I knew that they didn't want students. Anyway. So that's how I went to Yaddo, and he also said to me, when you fill out your applications, now is the time not to be modest. And I thought, oh, that's going to be hard. Anyway, and I wrote this long thing about all these artists I was interested in, like Arshile Gorky and de Kooning and Philip Guston, and the same, and Joan Mitchell and Helen Frankenthaler, right? All that. So.
Well, what did she say to you on the phone? What did she ask you?
She just said, I don't remember except, are you a student? And then I applied, and so then she must have been on the jury. She was on the board, and they were trying to get younger people to go to Yaddo. And it's interesting because that's what I do now.
Because it's an artist retreat in Saratoga. It's an old Victorian mansion. I've heard you...
400 acres.
400 acres. You refer it as like artist camp.
Right.
There are writers and painters and...
composers, and now there are filmmakers, and I'm probably leaving poets. I'm probably leaving somebody out. But anyway, and it's a great, great place, and it's been very important to my life and my work.
Well, I know that travel in general and residencies and an opportunity to, I mean, as a New Yorker, you are very much part of the city, but these residencies and awards and being in other places, you've made a lot of watercolors, you've used those opportunities to create larger works, but how has it influenced or inspired you? Is it the light?
Oh.
What do you think about when you're...
Well, it's more country than urban.
Oh, okay.
Right. So all my studios in Manhattan have been urban. The view from the window and all that kind of thing. Yaddo is 400-acre Victorian estate with trees.
So you get greens and natural colors. You remember what they look like.
Right, and beautiful light, changing light and all that. And it's interesting because now my new studio faces a garden, and it's very lush. So that's just...
So as an abstract painter, and did you always start out painting abstract?
No. And all my favorite artists, when I was a student, had worked figuratively, and then became abstract. Nowadays,
like Dustin or who?
Right, de Kooning, right, Gorky,
okay.
And who am I leaving out? Somebody.
Sure.
Bradley Walker Tomlin, one of my favorite artists. You know his work?
No.
Oh, he died young, actually, and beautiful, and painters know his work. And actually, in this Rockefeller collection, there's Bradley Walker. Yes, but more Matisse than Corn, right? So.
Matisse.
And then I took a class with Milton Resnick.
You did?
Yep, but not a painting class. It was called Art and Human Values. And he would talk about the Elgin marbles. And I thought, what are the Elgin marbles? I pictured marbles, that you play with. Anyway, and he was so amazing. I thought he had this amazing face. And I thought he was like a soulful Kirk Douglas. He was a Russian Jew, right? And everything he said, I knew it's important, but I don't know what he's talking about. So I wrote down everything. So I have a book and I was in a show at Snug Harbor, and they put my painting next to his.
Oh,
they didn't know, Anyway, and I came to give a talk, and I brought the book, and I read some things that he said. He was, that generation, their language was so vivid and creative, the way they talked about anything, and they were autodidacts, they taught themselves, and so he was amazing, and
it's like Renaissance man, literature and poetry and music were all part of being in the art community.
Right, and being not an intellectual, but a person of culture. Right. They respected culture, I think, whatever that means nowadays. But at that time it meant literature and, painting and the visual arts and poetry. And
well, I know in working with you on numerous exhibitions over the years, the paintings were often titled after, a series of Elvis Presley songs or of movie titles, and you'd follow certain movie directors and watch all of their films. Like pop culture as well as, the higher arts were part of your...
Well, recently, when I was went to this Rockefeller Estate, I'll talk about that later. Anyway, and I was in the car coming back to Manhattan, I was thinking, I've been interested in the temporal arts, and I never used that expression before.
The temporal arts,
Yes.
just of our time.
No, arts that deal with time.
Oh.
Like movies, dance, what am I leaving out? Music, anything that's in time and space. And painting is one could make an argument for painting as a temporal art, but it really isn't. It's and I've always thought about how you could look at a painting in parts and you could look at it all at once. You can't do that with a piece of music. You can't listen to the whole. Am I getting too...
No, I see what you're talking about. But I think that maybe your practice of making art being gestural is you can't make the whole dance in one movement. So it's more how you make a painting.
Oh yeah, that's great.
How
Very
you
good.
view it.
Yes. And I just wrote a little statement about this, so that could have included that, damn it. So, but that was, and then I've been interested, I took this great class at NYC, I wish I could remember the teacher's name, very eccentric. It was the history of Asian art, and he would talk about, do you know what tiger consciousness is?
No.
Well, if a tiger walked across here, right, we'd have to look at it.
Yes.
And he said, that's what you want your art to be.
Oh.
Anyway, so, and he also taught me about Japanese prints. So I studied ukiyo-e prints and all that. And one summer when I was in Provincetown, I made paintings from Japanese prints. But there was also, he assigned me to write a paper on Noh theater, N-O-H theater. And he sent me to the public library. This is the 70s, right? He sent me to the public library, and I had to look at the masks of the actors in the Noh theater, and I had to copy their expression. It was very hard, but it was kind of interesting because he said, then you're going to understand what they're doing. I don't know if I did, but and the interesting
well, there
thing,
is that theatrical element of that performance.
But the thing about Noh theater is it's 14th century, and the Japanese, anything that gave them, I don't know if this is still true, but anything that gave them pleasure, they kept it in the same form that it was originally in. So like we're in this like disposable culture, like painting's dead. They, you know, and they're very current and very advanced. At the same time, the Noh theater isn't the same as it was done. It's performed the same way as it was in the 14th century.
No evolution.
That's interesting. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I learned at that time. Evolution. I don't know. Somebody may write in and correct us on this. Anyway.
When you were starting out as a painter, there were a number of women painters, the 11th Street group. 9th Street.
You're right.
How did that affect you, or did you think about it, or were these heroines,
I was always looking for role models.
Role models.
And
okay.
I remember finding, to my surprise, an abstract painting by Miriam Shapiro that was in, I remembered it, right? Because then later on I met her. And, but I was always looking for women artists that I could, role models, you know. And I don't think I'm the only artist, you know.
Why, you know, of course, the feminist in me, I'm interested in this, but why, what were you thinking about then? Why weren't the male role models?
Well, my first art history class, I went up, first of all, I didn't know the New Testament. So I didn't know the iconography. I knew the Old Testament, but I didn't know the New Testament. So anyway, at the end of the class, I went up to her and I said, were there any women artists? And she said, feminist. And I said, what's that? I'm always asking, what's that? Anyway, so that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, What else?
So, what was the climate like in New York in the 70s as you were starting out as a young painter?
Well, I didn't really know anybody. You know, I would go to things like at Artist Space and thought, I don't know anybody. And it was very, you had to know somebody to be in a show there who could choose you. They used to have artists choose you. Anyway, and then people must have complained, so one night they had an open thing, right? And they just showed like tons of slides. And I thought, I watched it and I thought, if Monet's slides were here, he wouldn't get in either.
Yeah, it wasn't very good, huh?
Right. So, and then different things I did. I started to meet people, and I met Nina Yankowitz, and I don't remember how I met Nina. I have to ask her. Anyway, but she invited me to the 4th issue meeting for Heresies, and it was going to be at Joyce Koslov's. And so I went, and everybody sat around in a circle, and they said, what are you interested in? And everybody said what they were interested in, and I said, I had to think of something fast, and I said, I'm interested in my little voice. I don't project. Anyway, I said, I'm interested in why so many women made collages. And then Miriam came up to me afterwards and said, I want to work with you on that. And I thought, oh, she's scary. Anyway, I thought she was going to eat me up alive. And then we collaborated, and at one point in our collaboration, she said, Melissa, could you keep quiet for a minute so I could get a word in?
Guess you found your voice.
Anyway, and I did a lot of the research for Femage, and she was a very good writer, so she wrote most of the essay. And one time she was talking to Grace Gluck, and she was explaining what she was working on, and Grace Gluck said, you mean like Femage? So I'm the only one who remembers that story, because I told Joyce that. She's not, are you sure that's right? I said, I remember Mimi saying that.
That's so funny.
I know.
And I know that you...
I just want to say, I'd love to do research.
You do. I know, and you write, the article you wrote you've written a number of articles on watercolors and collages, and what was the recent article, Artists on Artists?
Oh yeah, Dubuffet.
Dubuffet's collages and his late paintings. And
I had help with that. I'm not a natural writer, but it turns out a lot of people get help with their writing.
That's okay.
Yeah, editing and whatever. So, but what were you going to say?
Well, in the collages that, let's look at your watercolor books. And Paige, I don't know if you can show some of the watercolors on the wall here. And then I know that when you go to, you can see on the cover of these books, when you travel, you don't travel with large canvases, right? It's all...
I've done that, but I don't do it anymore. Yeah. But I was going to say something else about collage. I took a class with a very good illustrator named Katerina Denzinger. She's deceased. Anyway, and she did beautiful, beautiful drawings. She was German, and did these amazing illustrations for Harper's Bazaar and all that. So I took a class with her, and we kind of became friends. And I went with her somewhere, and it was an opening, a little public library, I think it was, and Bea Feidler, who was one of the best art directors in New York, was there. And she asked Katerina, she said, and who are you with? And she said, oh, that's a young artist, Melissa and mine. Anyway, and she said, well, send her up to Ms. She was the art director of Ms.
Awesome.
That's how things work, right?
Yeah, showing up. Go meet people.
God. Anyway, I didn't learn that in Queens.
No.
Anyway, so I went with I showed her my collages. I was doing photo collages then. I still have some. And then I was also making these paintings from Japanese prints. and I put that in the portfolio. And she said, "What's this?" She was a very adventurous designer, and so she found a story for me called "The Green Woman." It's on my website.
Okay.
And I did a painting from a Japanese print, and it was about a woman who wanted to have a child, and she comes to a herbal witch, and I made the witch like a plant shape. Anyway, so I brought it in, and she said, "Oh, it's very good, but I want some more." She's a great art director. "I want some more inside, outside." And I knew what she meant, actually. Anyway, so I went back to my little studio, and I started making greenness, trees, all kinds of, and then I collaged it around the paint. I put it, around the center painting. And I brought it, and as I was taking the brown paper off, she was very dramatic. She said, "Oh, it's beautiful, I love it, I love it."
Oh, isn't that great?
Anyway, and I heard that she used to include it in her slide portfolio. And she gave it to her, and people were like so impressed, that she, because it's abstract, not quite, but it's abstract. So anyway, and that's now in a collage museum. So my mother's friend bought it.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yes. And then I have 2 paintings that my mother bought. I think, I'm not going to tell you how much, it was so little. Anyway, but her friend said, if you don't pay for it, you're not going to get a good one.
That's true. It's true. No freebies.
Especially. So, anyway, and I used to go around with my mother to look at paintings, because she drove, because I don't know how to drive.
You would drive around New York City?
Well, we'd go to different shows, like the Newburger or whatever, and she would look at something and she'd say, "I bet you like this painting." I thought, it was an artist that I really was envious of, a woman artist. And she said, "You're better." Which,
Don't you love it?
Which wasn't typical of my mother. She would, if she thought that woman was better, she would have told me.
Oh, okay.
Right? Anyway, so, and then one time when I had a painting up at the Met, I brought her. I got dressed properly, and the painting's called My Father's Sketchpad. It's in the Met's collection, and she looked at it, and she didn't say anything. Then she walked back, and she said, "So much life."
Oh.
And I thought that's one of the best art reviews
that's
I ever got.
That's a great compliment,
I know. Anyway, so she loved my work, but she said I made my life too hard.
That's the life in the art, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's great joy, but a lot of work, and it isn't easy. And, you've been working as a painter, in different decades, and what is your inspiration? How do you keep it fresh and interesting? I mean, in a lot of ways, it comes down to what we were with the collages.
Right.
Do you want to talk about some of these
So
watercolor books?
So this was one I took to McDowell in 2012, and I didn't like what I was doing, and I was getting so frustrated, and I said, "Okay, I'm cutting them up," and then I started to collage them. So you can see this on different things here. Wait.
So one learns more from failure than success, right?
Yes. And also, one of my favorite quotes is, "Accidents favor the prepared mind." And that's from Louis Pasteur, who was a scientist, but it's really, Anyway, so these are, I think of these that they could be murals, And then
one of the things, the notes I made in preparing for today,
right.
is in how your work is a little bit diaristic.
Oh, okay, which goes with the temporal thing.
Yes.
I never thought
about
of that.
experiences and places and time, and
right.
these are, dated, and your work as an abstract painter is rarely untitled. It's usually about a place, an idea.
Right, a reference.
Reference.
Right.
And very specific.
Like this is Lizzie Hazeldine, who is one of my favorite characters in a novella by, come on, help me out, Edith Wharton.
Oh, yes.
Who I love her work. And she was born on 23rd Street. Right.
So a neighbor, we're here on 23rd Street
Right.
in your studio. So we are in your studio in one of two rooms. You moved back to this, or you moved into this space this summer. This is you said your watercolor room?
Yes.
And
the flat
storage.
files. Right. And so this,
So here you were already cutting them up and drawing and...
right. And I think I also teach watercolor, so I think and one of the last assignments has something to do with collage. I can't remember right now. Anyway, and I think I'm
Where are you teaching?
At the School of Visual Arts, and I think I showed the students this, so I don't remember how they used it, but they had to make collages. That's right, and I showed them with right angles, and then they could find a composition, and so anyway.
And these, your collages here using the white background, I think have more to do with the gestures that you're finding and things in the watercolors. What do you see when you look at the parts that you like, that you've saved cut out?
You mean these?
Yeah.
It's very improvisational. Like I'll cut out a shape, and then I'll put it down next to another one, and then I'll start to look at what they call the negative shapes.
Yeah.
Right. And see if it works.
So in looking at Dubuffet and his collages, what are the things that you sort of took from that? What were the lessons?
Well, I have to, he mapped everything out before he did them, which is interesting. I think I put that in the article. You can see a picture of it. And that was interesting to find that. And
do you do that? No.
No.
You're more intuitive painter.
Or improvisation.
Improvisation.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what Stephen Ewell used to use that word with me, so I like that.
Because I've seen the way, and your watercolors are actually a nod to sometimes, I'll call you the underpainting of your paintings, starting out with some color blocking and then adding gestures.
Right. Right.
You've had a similar, actually, the earlier paintings that I think of your work are much thicker. And it seems that the watercolors have really influenced the way that you make oil paintings today.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. And I don't use white paint.
You don't use white paint?
In the oil, no. I might, if I start with Naples yellow, which has white in it, but I don't put any, well, in watercolor you don't use white paint, you use the white of the paper.
Yes.
Some watercolors use white paint, but whatever.
Okay.
But I don't use white paint in my oils.
Okay.
Only maybe if I'm starting with the Naples yellow blocking, and Naples yellow has white paint in it. But that's it. That's why, because as soon as you add white, you lose the intensity of the color, or the luminosity and all that. Yeah, you knock that down. But I used to like that. Then it's
they were thicker and more intense, a little broodier, maybe.
Yes.
And I think of you also as part of a community of painters, but more individualistic in that your circle includes writers and music and critics, and not just a group of painters.
Right.
Would you say that's?
Pretty much, yeah. But it was interesting the other night. I was at an opening at on 21st Street, and this man comes up to me, and everybody's got masks now and everything. He comes in and says, "Hi, Melissa," and I'm going, He said, David Reed.
Oh.
And I said, oh, David, so nice to see you. Anyway, and I had just seen Judy Fab.
Uh-huh.
And it was a crazy night. Anyway, and we started talking about lots of things, politics and things like that. And then I said, you know, David, we're all of a generation. Like, he's the same age I am, and so is Judy. And we were like, just, you know, going, oh, and this time that we live in and all that. So it was interesting.
He's a wonderful artist.
Yes,
yeah, I love his paintings.
yes. And he knows Bradley Walker Tomlin too.
Yes.
I forgot to mention him the other night. So, and so.
Well, let's go over to the painting studio side of it. So this is still a new studio for you. You moved in earlier this summer.
Right.
And Paige, I don't know if you can get the brushes and the paints here. It's still very clean and organized, Melissa. Do you still have an assistant who helps you out?
I have an assistant, but I actually do all this.
You do all that?
Yeah, I mix the colors and I'm cleaning my brushes now because this studio has hot water.
Oh.
Which my last studio didn't.
Okay.
So I can do that. I can listen to music and clean my brushes. There's some in here. And
Yes, you do. You have a little sink back in here.
Right.
So this is the first large work you made this summer in this studio.
Well, I decided I'm not making any more large paintings unless I have a commission.
Oh. Why?
Because look at all the paintings I have. Anyway, and I don't really have the space at this time.
Okay.
So, but this was a commission.
Okay.
Anyway, so for this show at the Rockefeller, the David Rockefeller Art Center that's opening in March. And it was a former L'Orangerie, beautiful building. Oh, here it is.
Beautiful. So
yeah.
this is in upstate New York?
Yeah, 4,000 acres.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and it was such a contrast. I thought Yaddos. I thought that was big.
Yes, well, this is real.
This is, anyway, so, and the curator was, wanted me to see these Grace Hardigan paintings that this famous curator from the modern named Dorothy Miller bought for Nelson Rockefeller. And I couldn't believe him, it's so great. And the color's very bad.
So,
but this one is called Salome.
So you're working with a curator now in a former orangerie that is being repurposed as a contemporary art gallery, working with the collection from the Nelson Rockefeller collection.
And other things. Well, because I'm going to be in a show with, I think it's 6 women artists. I'm ready to be in a co-ed show.
Okay. Do you feel like your work's been segregated, relegated to just women abstract painting? Or?
I don't know. I don't want to complain.
Okay.
I don't want to complain. No complaints. I'm glad to be, and I would be accused of not being a feminist if I even said that. But I would like to,
just be seen as a painter.
Exactly. Even though.
Well, I think there's an honor in, looking at some of the undervalued artists of the past generation. So I'm excited to see that. So there are 6 artists invited to respond to works from the collection.
Or something at the estate.
Oh, okay.
Right. So we, before the pandemic lockdown, we were going to go and have a retreat.
Okay.
And then we couldn't.
Yes.
So then they had 2 at a time go, and we went all around looking at and they showed me these paintings, and I thought these are amazing. And one is Salome.
Yes.
And the other one by Grace is called City Life.
City Life.
Yes, and that's what he wants, the curator, Jeremiah William McCarthy, wants to show this with city life.
And this is called?
Times Square.
Times Square. It does have the energy and frenzy of Times Square and the billboards and the activity, and so you've got the urban city colors compared to the more country.
It's not, well, I don't know if it's country, but it's different. It's more ordered.
Okay.
Right? And like Grace's painting is.
It is.
You start to see grid in the painting and all that. So, and
do you have a title for the new painting?
This one? Yes, a nod to Grace.
A nod to Grace?
Yes.
Her painting was titled Salome.
Right, and then she made a little Salome.
Yes.
Which we're not sure where that painting is. It's been bought and sold a few times. Anyway, so then I've been making little nods.
Okay.
So, and these, I see these going in two directions, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. So it's too soon for me to,
You do a lot with smaller canvases and diptychs and triptychs, but what I see in these new works from this summer is the stark whiteness of the background.
Right.
That's a little sort of newer. They feel very vibrant and clean.
And I don't know if it even has to do with the
all
lights.
the lighting in here.
Yeah, but also there is other work on paper that I can see this related to.
Yes.
So, and
when is the opening of the exhibition?
that's going to be, I think, in March.
Of next year? Think we'll be able to go?
I don't know. There's supposed to be a catalog and.
Oh, marvelous. Well,
yeah.
I think that sounds like a good
Yeah.
outing. I've missed our trips. We've traveled together
I know,
around to different places.
I know, it would be great. It'd
So
be great.
I hope to come back in March and see these beautiful pieces installed. The Rockefeller Estate, upstate New York, is
Yeah.
north of Hudson or
At Tarrytown. It's called
Tarrytown.
Haiku. And I think there's another Rockefeller venture that possibly this painting's going to be in.
Okay.
I don't know. They're still working it out. So,
Well, it's been an honor to sort of explore this project, work with you on the collages, and after we hang up here with you all, I don't know if hang up if it's what you say in IGTV, but we'll talk about our next projects and bringing more things to Columbus. So thank you for being on my IGTV.
Oh, I'm so
Melissa,
glad that
I love working with you.
That we've spent time and space over a period of time.
Yes.
Yes. Or temporal
Our
relations.
Thank you all up there. We'll check in, see what we've got going on. More to come.